Hey everybody, Dan Price with Bigfoot Knows Karate. Check us out on October 13th on Kickstarter, or you can check us out on www.bigfootknowskarate.com. You have been watching Two Geeks Talking.
Hey, everybody, this is Casey Allen, and I am the co writer of the amazing book, Bigfoot Knows Karate. Find us at bigfootknowskarate.com and keep your eyes peeled for our Kickstarter coming out on October 13th. You guys be there, and you're watching Two Geeks Talking.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We are joined today by two very talented individuals. They are the creators, co-creators, I should say, of Bigfoot Knows Karate, an amazing comic that I just had a chance to look over in the past few weeks. I was so super excited about this interview that I've basically been tweeting nonstop and starting the interview 2 hours earlier than necessary. But we are joined today by, of course, Casey Allen, who was on the show a couple of weeks back, and another co-creator, Dan Price. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having us today.
Yeah, I'm
Appreciate
good, man.
having us here.
Before I get started, and before we start talking about the actual comic itself, though, how familiar are you two with martial arts actors and everything like that?
Probably not as versed as I should be. Given the question you're about to ask, I feel like I'm going to come in with a knife and a gunfight. Go ahead. What do you got?
We're going to play a quick game of overrated, underrated.
Okay.
And I'm going to list off just a bunch of actors and martial artists in the film industry, basically, TV film industry. And I want you to say, and these are just quick snap decisions, and this will be for each of you. Who's overrated, who's underrated? Bruce Lee.
Underrated. He should have gone further. He should have gone farther. He should have, his star should have shined bigger than it ever did.
Jet Li.
Given the fact that his first name is Jet, it sounds cool as shit. So, I say underrated. He should be much bigger.
Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan is overrated. He
is
absolutely 100% overrated.
Donnie Yen.
I think he's right where he needs to be, honestly.
That's the guy who does the Ip Man movies, right? Nah, he's fantastic. He's completely underrated.
Michael Jai White.
He was the guy that played Spawn, right?
Yeah, he was also the guy who played Tyson.
I would say underrated.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, overrated. He's a ballet dancer. He's not a freaking martial arts guy.
Wesley Snipes.
Is he a martial artist? He was in Tu Wong Fu, and I don't think he got near enough credit. Between that and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, if you would have asked us movie about drag performers, we probably would have done a lot better.
Yeah. Well, he was also in Coming to America, the new Coming to America. And those two new movies that he was in were both incredible.
If he just paid his damn taxes, he'd be okay.
Yeah, he's underrated. He's underrated. I'm glad he's making a comeback.
Chuck Norris.
Overrated.
Steven Seagal.
Overrated.
Yeah, screw that guy. He's a douche.
Sonny Chiba is overrated.
Underrated.
We are, of course, joined today by you talented creators to talk about Bigfoot Knows Karate. And for those that don't know anything about this, tell us what it's all about.
The story starts off with our hero, who just so happens to be a Bigfoot. It's seriously one of those things where if you read the name of it, you're like, okay, I get an idea where this is going. However, there's a lot more depth to it than just a Bigfoot that knows karate. And I don't want to give too much away. Just know that it starts off with a big punch 'em up, slowly opens up into a story about destiny, a story about fate, a story about agency and being able to choose for yourself what you do. First things first is to punch 'em up. And we have a blast with it.
The way I kind of think about it is, it's if you took Godzilla versus Kong and mixed it with Kill Bill, okay, and then you've got this gentle cryptid warrior. He's a product of his environment, and the fact of the matter is, his environment is nothing but him. Think about the isolation of being a Bigfoot. Think about what that feeling was like, and that the lack of connection. That's going to play a big part in what happens in the story. But yeah, you hear Bigfoot knows karate, right? And it spells out what it is, but there's so much more to it beyond that. It's a punch 'em up. It's got that going for it too, like Casey said, for sure.
There was an interesting question before, while I was tweeting this out here from Matt Sumo, who was on the show a couple weeks back.
Love
He
Sumo.
asked, yeah, he's amazing. I was editing his interview. His question was, is this the first in a long line of comics about cryptids practicing martial arts? And will this come down to them entering a tournament to find out who the best is, like the Jersey Devil knows Kung Fu, etc.?
Well, the Jersey Devil doesn't know Kung Fu. Cthulhu knows Kung Fu. And they will be dealing with Bigfoot will be battling off with a character named Kung Fu Thulu in this book. So that is the big baddie who is hunting down Bigfoot in this story. And they have, for lack of a better word, just a smash mouth bloodfest of a fight. And it gets pretty gnarly. It gets to be a lot of fun. That's for sure. I had a good time drawing it anyway. I have a feeling Casey had a good time writing.
I had a blast.
So.
And during the interview process, we've kind of figured out that as much as we wanted a goat sucking cryptid to be involved with the story, we realized that he's actually living out west, and he teaches yoga. He's very happy. He's not involved with this at all. So no goat suckers in this.
Does the Jersey Devil suck goats? Is that what you're saying?
No. Who's the?
I'm thinking of the Chupacabra.
Chupacabra, yeah.
That's
Chupacabra is. Yeah, he's just he's living his own life, and he's happily living out Reno. No, not Reno.
You said Ojai last week.
Ojai, yeah. He's in Ojai with his partner. They run a bed and breakfast for cats, and are teaching yoga. So.
Different business altogether. Okay.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like an out west type of situation. Man, is there a cryptid bud, like a top knot or whatever, man bun on the chupacabra?
How could he not have a man bun?
Hairstyles aside, obviously you talk about. You both talk about this book being a knockdown, drag out slugfest. So action obviously is going to be a huge portion of this particular series.
Oh yeah.
I do hope it's more than one book, obviously.
Yeah, we got five in the works. So, but it's like it's a story in 4 acts. This issue, the best way to think about it. The actual issue is Bigfoot Knows Karate, Chapter 1, Hunter Prey, and Hunter Prey. The theme of this issue is that in this world, anyone can be a hunter and anyone can be the prey at any given time. And that situation flip-flops throughout this first issue as we're figuring out who Bigfoot is, where his place is in the world as we're being introduced to him. He's a very fascinating character because as you'll learn, he's a lot more... He's a very intelligent beast, for lack of a better word. So we get to really explore his psyche, and his psyche is a big part of this too. This is a very introductory issue, but by the time we get done with this, the ending is going to turn what we start on its ear. So we're really looking forward to where that angle is going to play out.
This is a mythical being. It's been in stories and legends and history throughout, humankind, for that matter, for the unexplained of what you see in the woods and what goes bump in the woods, so to speak. What ethics do you have in writing these types of mythical creatures?
Here's the thing. When I was coming up with the initial idea, it started off as just a name and then worked into a concept. But into a character design and then later into a concept. And I'm watching documentaries and doing research and all of that. And what I've learned is that a lot of the information piggybacks off of each other, number one. And number two, nobody's ever seen a Bigfoot. So how do you actually even know if what they're talking about is real or false? Somebody tells a story after somebody tells a story. Well, now we have the internet. Facsimiles of stories can happen, and like that. So people go out there with their cameras and they go look around and try and find the Bigfoot in the night, and hasn't happened yet. So the only thing that I really took away from the Bigfoot lore was that no one can see a Bigfoot. It's the only thing that's is verifiable. I haven't seen a Bigfoot. Kurt, have you seen a Bigfoot?
I'm up in Canada, so that most we see is polar bears.
Okay, see, and Casey?
Never seen a Bigfoot. I do have a neighbor that swears up and down he saw the Alabama white thing, which is what our version of Bigfoot here. That neighbor is also soused 99.9% of the time.
Drink, right?
However, I'm not saying that everybody sees Bigfoot as soused, but that guy probably was. To kind of piggyback onto what you were saying earlier, I feel kind of the same way about Bigfoot as I do UFO abductions and stuff like that. I grew up in a household where my dad swore up and down that he, like, wasn't me, swore up and down that he was abducted by a UFO. I was literally surrounded by books and documentaries and stuff about this, phenomena, for lack of a better term. I always took it with a grain of salt. He was my dad. I loved him. I didn't see it. I'm fairly agnostic about a lot of things. You kind of got on a faith-based idea of like, okay, I'll whatever you say, whatever you think you saw. It doesn't mean that the stories aren't interesting or valid. Stuff like that is very interesting, and people are always going to want to kind of delve into the unknown when it comes to stuff like this. It'll never not be interesting. It'll never not have some sort of pull to it.
Yeah, this is a 5-issue series. It's good to see that you have a long-standing journey that we're going to go on and that we're going to follow for this here. In looking at this character of Bigfoot and looking at his overall journey, what was the one thing that surprised you when you started writing this series that evolved over time?
I'm co-writing on this. However, Dan came up with the story. Dan created the character, and I kept seeing this awesome drawing of this character that he kept posting on his Instagram feed. I kept saying, hey man, you need to do something with that. That's too good of a character to waste and not make a story out of. And he got something up here, and I was like, well, get it on paper. He finally said, hey, I think I'm ready to do this. And I said, I will be happy to edit it. Let me know how I can help you get this out, because it's a really cool idea. We kept kind of talking about it. I saw what he had written down. He had a full outline of what it was about, where he wanted to go, and how he wanted to get there. I was really impressed, like, immediately with all the work that he had put into it, because it seemed fully realized from the jump. I kept kind of saying like, well, what about this? We can do this. We can try this. And finally he was like, hey man, I want you to co-write. Now I was really hesitant to do that at first because I've never co-written anything with anyone. B, if I was going to co-write it, I wanted to make sure that, like, I would be heard. If I had an idea, you meet a lot of people in comics, especially when you're first starting out, that want you to write their story for them. And when Dan showed me the outline that he had, I was like, oh, this is not one of those instances. This is a thing where, how can I make it better? How can I fill in some of the gaps? How can I kind of add some depth to it? Sometimes maybe take some of the load off of him. However, sometimes I feel like, oh crap, I just added like 2 pages. So maybe I haven't taken too much of the load off of him. I was really surprised with how you read the title and it's Bigfoot Knows Karate, and you're like, oh, I can tell what this is immediately. No, you can't. It is so much more than that. It's so much more of, like I said earlier, about, like, agency, destiny, and kind of saying like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and you're not going to stop me, even though you are the person with the power here. It's been a blast to write too. It's been really fun to write with Dan.
Looking at then the art style, which I do love, it has, and this struck me instantly as soon as I saw that lower third image, that Bigfoot Knows Karate stance and everything like that. It reminded me so much of Samurai Jack. Just the style, just the overall art style, just was like, I don't see this being drawn in any other way. It was just so powering. It was so amazing.
I don't have a lot of experience with Samurai Jack. I feel like I let people down when they ask me about Samurai Jack, and I have like nothing to really say. I've seen 15 minutes of it about 15 years ago when my nephew was really small, and I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was absolutely amazing. I just didn't keep watching it. And so I don't really have much to say about about the comparison other than thank you, because it is gorgeous looking. Samurai Jack, I mean Bigfoot Knows Karate, whatever. Because I mean it is beautiful though. The art style that I chose for this, I wanted it brushy, I wanted it grungy, I wanted it movement. I wanted movement to be the guiding force. I always kind of feel like my artwork is pretty stiff. To make that feeling, invoke that movement was really important. That brushy, painty style, it almost kind of leans towards old Hanna-Barbera. And that was actually something that I came up with working on a children's book a few years back, actually. And the artwork in this book is an amalgam of a children's book I did about a grandmother with her dog and her cat, and some work that I did for Drew Edwards' Halloween Man, if you've ever heard of that indie comic. So the style is really liberating, just because it's just, I feel very free when I'm drawing this way. Everything, I always feel like I draw very rigid, and so this has been, it's just been a really good time, a really fun book to draw. Very different from anything else I've ever done in the world of comics, that's for sure.
So what is it about then this new art style? Is it like re-energizing your creativity, or how is it helping you for this comic?
I guess, Kurt, I really have a thing about each project is different from the last. Whether it's, working in one field and then going over to another, or within comics, just making sure that we keep things fun, free, peppy, happy, for me, for my soul and psyche. Because if you're going to do a comic, anybody who has never worked on a comic before, if you have a full-time job and a family and kids and and mortgage and all that other stuff, this is something that you have to do in your spare time. So this can take several months to put a book together. So this project for me, it needed to be something that was very different from my previous creator-owned projects that I'd worked on. Those were both comedies, satirical, that type of thing, and this is a action adventure, a little bit of psychological thriller going on in it, and a lot of good twists and turns, and a much bigger story arc that I had done in previous works. So hence why I wanted to bring Casey in so badly. For Casey to be there, it allowed. He kept all the fibers of the story together. Like he had to deal with my manic, crazy ass throwing, what about this and what about that, and my wild outline that I had that spanned 5 issues but had bits and pieces here and there. And I mean, I might as well written the thing on cocktail napkins, just dropped it on the table and said, "Here, figure it out, writer boy," But I didn't do that. It was a Google Doc. The art style, to me, I think it just very much complements the storyline, and the story that we're telling. As to the, I don't remember if we were back in the Samurai Jack question or not in this one, but anybody who says it looks like Samurai Jack, thank you very much. In fact, Dennis Valencia from Slate Comics, who has a Kickstarter coming out here very soon, he actually did a piece of fan art that you can see on my Instagram of Bigfoot Knows Karate and Samurai Jack with their respective baddies in the background. You got Kung Fu Thulu on our side, and I do not know the name of the bad guy who was in Samurai Jack, but the guy with the mask who's awesome looking.
His art style kind of has a certain kinesis to it. It really makes me think of like some of the early like Japanese like block prints and stuff like that. There's such a kinetic quality to what he's already doing, and the fact that there is so much action in the book, it just kind of really helps to bring out that crazy like propulsive energy that we're trying to put into it. Dan has really knocked this one out of the park.
Well, then let's talk about the editing side of things. Obviously, from Dan's point of view, he threw everything at you and you had to filter it down to the core of the books themselves. Was there anything that instantly struck you as this needs to move to issue 2 or issue 3? Or what was your focus in terms of editing this particular book?
I went from editor to writer fairly quickly on this. One thing that immediately became clear to me was like just how fully realized this was. And there wasn't a whole lot of like moving around or shifting stuff. He had the beats down. The biggest thing that we really had to kind of figure out, the dialogue, how these characters talked, their motivations. And literally this is our writing process, or the editing process is I get home from work, I put my dogs on the leash and I start walking, and I call Dan and I'll walk around for about, an hour and a half, and we chat out the book. I'll have the book, the script in one hand. I'll be talking to Dan. I'll be staring at the script, and we'll go like, okay, maybe we need to move this page over, or maybe we need to finish this dialogue. There was one character, and I can go ahead and say who it is because there's already been fan art of him. His name is Kung Fu Thulu. He's the big bad in the first book. Kung Fu Thulu, we were trying to figure out how he talks. There's a whole lot of back and forth on like, he's a fish man. So like, does he have does he have trouble breathing above water? Is that something we need to think about? And then finally, I think Dan was like, maybe we're overthinking this. And instead of, a guy who goes, every breath he takes, we decided that maybe he should sound like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Well, it's a cross between Macho Man Randy Savage and De Niro from Cape. Well, I say Twin Peaks, from Cape Fear.
Which I've never seen that film. I need to watch that film.
Never seen that? Oh my!
Like I have an idea. Like he was like I saw the if it helps, I saw the Sideshow Bob episode of The Simpsons.
It helps. It helps a bit. I mean, did you see the Robert Mitchum version of the movie? Yeah, the actor. He was in the original version of Cape Fear.
I did not know there were 2 Cape Fear movies.
Oh yeah, dude, it's Mitchum, dude. Come on, you say you like westerns, you gotta watch it. I mean, it's not a western, but it's Mitchum. I mean, come on. So yeah, if you took Randy Savage, you took the character, the De Niro version from Cape Fear, and then if you ever saw a movie called The Warriors, Kurt, the street gangs running around the city trying. Yeah, remember the guy who gets killed that starts the big gang war? Yeah. Can you dig it? That's very much like if you took those 3 characters and mashed them up together. Right. That's kind of what I've always kind of thought. Not always kind of thought. That was kind of like the realization of what Kung Fu Thulu would be. But we went back and forth. I think that was the biggest talking point that we did. Casey was working out what Kung Fu Thulu would sound like.
He saw, so he popped the question to me while we were
and he said yes, thank you. He said yes, thank you, Casey. You made me the happiest man alive.
He brought it up while I was walking the dog, and he was like, "Hey, man, what the hell is this?" Because I'd written some affectations for Kung Fu Thulu, like in his how he talks, and I was like, oh man, he's a fish man. He probably can't breathe that well when he's out of water, right? And he was like, it's kind of distracting, isn't it? I was like, maybe, yeah.
Well, tell him what the affectation was. He remember what the word was, the noise he was making?
He go, herk, like with each breath.
Herk.
Yeah, which was it kind of inspired by an issue of Generation X that Scott Lobdell wrote forever ago, where there was a character that they thought was a mutant, but he was just deformed, and it was really sad. I was like, maybe he would have like this kind of weird affect. And also, I was reading Claremont's X-Men, and he is, at the time I was reading the Phoenix Saga, and Claremont is terrible with accents. In that, I mean, he's a genius. He's awesome. He's written things that I couldn't even touch, but his accent sometimes can be distracting. But I was like, that might be cool to give an accent. That thing that I hate in Claremont's writing, maybe I could do it better. Like, no, not a good idea, Casey.
You did a fine job, sir. A fine job.
It's amazing that I love the collaboration between you two. Obviously, you work well together. The fact that you're writing 5 issues together, which is amazing. So I want to see the entire series. Will this be like eventually maybe an omnibus of everything, or is it going to just be like just single issues?
Single issues, we're going to do that. I mean, look, if the campaign goes well and we need to do a collected edition at the end, great. Would love to see that happen. This has been the coolest project that I've personally worked on. Thank you to Casey for that, and thank you for all the support of everybody on Instagram and other places for that as well. I mean, just to talk a little bit about the Kickstarter a little bit, Kurt, at the same time, we're actually doing two different editions of the book. I mean, there's a couple of covers, but there's 2 different actual versions of the book. They're both 30-page stories, okay? And they're the same story, but we're going to do the regular edition and then deluxe edition. The deluxe edition will have 44 pages in there, because we're going to be including a very large gallery of fan art that we've received. We've received almost 50 pieces of fan art, and this is before the book has even hit Kickstarter. It's been incredible. I can't even begin to tell you, and Casey will back that up. I mean, it's just the feeling that you get from people who, are taking their time to draw your character and they've not even seen page 1. That's amazing. Doing a collected edition or an omnibus, if people like the first one and the second one, we go through the whole series, and we've got a really good series lined up that is going to take you through a lot of twists and turns along the way. I can see doing an omnibus at the end and putting it all together. And then there's also, I can see writing book 6. 5 is the arc that we got to get through. If we're going to write our way out of it to where if we want to do a book 6, it's possible. If it's not, if we don't want to do a book 6, it can end there and everybody could be happy.
Yeah, these characters are so fun to write, and there's so much in this world that we're playing around with. It's a big sandbox. We don't want to be as myopic as to think that, as soon as we're done, the toys just fall down like in Toy Story. Like, things are still going to happen. There's more story there. Yeah.
We got a lot we can explore with this, because there's a rich history within the character set. I mean, we're talking about Bigfoot lore. We're talking about, we already have an H.P. Lovecraftian type character running around in our book, in the form of a Cthulhu and a Kung Fu Cthulhu. So we will be exploring other cryptids. We will be exploring other, that the cryptid, the kaiju, that will all come into play in this. So we've got a lot of room that we can run with, and I think once you get to the end of the book, it's going to be one of those things like you'll be able to go, okay, I get a clearer idea of where they're going. I'm not going to tell you where we're going, Kurt, because that would spoil all the fun. But I think that just to be able to say we're going to give you something that you didn't see coming, all right? And hopefully, or otherwise, you're really brilliant, and I'm not refunding your money. But no, we're going to give you something that's going to be a lot of fun to read, and hopefully entice you to pick up issue 2.
I think it will. I mean, I've from what I've seen, from what I've been able to briefly read, I think you have a great start. You've already hooked me, so the fact that you're on the show is secondary to that. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So that, and I just love cool comics. I love independent creators, and I love the fact that, if I didn't hear about Casey's process from his last interview and now seeing him working with you, the fact that, I see versatility in the many working partnerships and projects that you're both working on separately and together, I think that you have a great avenue to become an amazing team in the future as well. So, keep doing what you do.
Casey I could not imagine doing this with anyone else. From the time that we met in the Comic Jam, letting me join into the jam to do a few things, that was incredible. When it came time to do this, he's been so supportive and so encouraging about getting Bigfoot Knows Karate off the ground. When it came time to find somebody to work with, no, it had to be Casey. I mean, it had to be Casey. And he has his project that he's doing with Pete, Voodoo Child. I have a project that I'm working on the side with somebody else called it's Halloween Man Meets Latex Avenger, and I'm a co-writer on that. And there's with Drew Edwards, and then we have a gentleman named Paulo Hernandez who's doing the artwork for that. So we have a couple of not side projects. I mean, Voodoo Child's a big project. I'm not going to call it a side project. I think Bigfoot's probably more your side project than Voodoo Child, right, Kay?
They carry equal weight.
This has been working out really well. I mean, he's a hell of a writer and a hell of a friend. I mean, we've known each other. We've been working together for a few months, but we've known each other for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Never 4 years. Never met face to face, but we talk on the phone like we've known each other 20 years.
That's the best type of relationship.
Yeah, good conversation. Never have to see one another. It's perfect. So, I'm kidding, Casey.
Great.
It'll happen eventually. It's one of those things where when you're working on a project like this, you don't want to work with, in any creative endeavor, you don't want to work with people that you can't stand. With Dan, like he's my brother. I like Dan. Dan is rad. Mm-hmm. The first thing he asked when we got on this interview, he asked how my kids were, because they were both sick. It's finding people that care about you and are your friends. That's the people you want to work with. That's the person that you want to work with and create with and expand and grow with. So it's been a blast. It really has.
I like Casey's kids. They're fun. We talk on when they're on the Bluetooth sometimes.
They're insane.
They make me laugh. Of course, I want to know how they're doing. They're fun.
Introspective time. Get on those thinking caps.
Oh Lord.
Well, I got to switch it up because you already know some of them.
I know this is some of the most well thought out questions I've ever been asked. So,
at what point are we good enough?
I mean, that's a really subjective question, and never. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm not I'm somebody who strives. I'm a worker bee, and I have a hard time relaxing. I feel like if I'm not working, if I'm not doing something as a parent, if I'm not doing something productive, I'm wasting my time. I could be more fit. I could do things like that. You know what I mean? But like, I'm constantly working on my craft. I'm constantly thinking about my game, about how I'm going to do things. I think my wife's even said, she's like, I don't know if you're ever going to be like completely satisfied, in terms of where you are and what you want to do. Not that I need to make more money or, you know what I mean? It's not like that. It's like it's a whole different thing. It's people measure success in different ways. You know what I mean? So I think when I'll know when I'm happy. I'll know it, but it's going to be a while to get there. So when are we good enough? I don't know. Never.
One thing about artists that I've picked up from working in the Comic Jam is that I kind of compare it to people that go to the gym a lot. When he's not doing Bigfoot Knows Karate stuff, he's still drawing. Like if he has some free time, he's going to be picking up that pad and he's going to be doing some work. It's always about perfecting the craft and getting better and expanding as a creator. That's one thing that always impresses me about artists like Pete, the guy that's doing Voodoo Child with me. He has some stuff he's doing just for the hell of it. That is, he's drawing comic book villains all through September for some reason, and they're amazing. And it's all to kind of push himself artists are great at having that drive to push themselves, because if they're like sharks, as soon as they stop, they're dead in the water. I don't know if I'm as good at that as like the artists are. I try to push myself. I try to read more just to see how other people are doing it, and then I look at how other people are making, their part of the comics, and see if I can improve upon how I do mine. But as far as like measuring success, like I'm happy when we get the book out. I know that, like, I'm not expecting to get a Porsche out of this or anything like that. However, it'd be pretty rad. The success is learning, doing better, and so far I think that we're successful at this.
What is one piece of advice that someone has told you that stuck with you in your career that's made you better?
Todd Knock told me one time when you're drawing, I mean, I got two pieces for you. Todd Knock told me one time that if you're drawing a page, sing your panels, okay? To, every note every different note makes a different sound. Every note that you make, it's different from each other. It's a different size of the panel break. So it's like a headshot is boom, and then the wide shot is bing. And so when you shouldn't make the four same notes on a page, basically, is what he was saying. Is so every page should look different. And I don't know why the noise thing works so well for me, but I still do it to this day. I'll go, when I'm getting done laying out a page, I go bing bong bing boom boom. You know what I mean? It's just making silly noises, and it's something that kind of stuck with me. I don't know why I do it. Yeah, the road to comics hell is paved with good intentions, meaning that do not, a lot of people will promise you a lot of things in this industry, that you'll be bigger than Jack Kirby, kid. I never heard that one. But a lot of times they don't have the ability to make those statements, actually happen. And that's okay, because the only thing that's really going to make that happen for you is practice, preparation, and timing. That's what's going to make that work for you. So walk walk softly when you're in the world of comics. Pay attention, keep your lips closed, your ears open, and make sure that you're not getting hurt along the way, because as somebody who's been kicked in the teeth a couple of times in the world of comics, it's not fun. I definitely handle it differently than I did back then, that's for sure.
One of the best pieces of advice I got was on Ostrander. I interviewed him for Spoiler Country, and super nice guy. He was telling me just how important it was to kind of make sure that you give each character a voice, to kind of treat that character with respect as you go about your business. They're not all cookie cutter shapes to play around with. And that's one thing I've tried to keep in mind as I go about my writing.
Everyone has one person that inspired them on their path to where they are today. Who was that for you?
Bob Layton. I met him when I was 10. I met him when I was 16, and I met him again when I was 35. And all three of those can be more different experiences. I got to watch, this was around the time that he was drawing Iron Man when I was 10, when he was drawing Iron Man, and he did a sketch for me, and it was the Silver Centurion armor. And I got to watch him draw and just talk with people, and he was just so comfortable, and just such a nice guy. And so that meeting really kind of set me off on drawing differently than I had before. Striving for comics in a different way. When I was 16 and I met him again, he was reviewing my portfolio. This time he was the vice president of Valiant Comics, and he shredded my portfolio review, just shredded it. I didn't tell him that I was the same kid who had bought three covers from him, and a sketch. I just went in there and handed him my stuff and shredded it. Told me I draw too much like Rob Liefeld. And then when I met him again, when I was in my mid-30s, I was already doing creator-owned books at that point. Already had a couple titles under my belt, and we were just 2, 3 tables away from each other in Artist Alley at a convention, and I got to talk to him and tell him, about our first and second meetings, and we got, laughed a lot, and he was amazing, and it was neat watching his career, how he's, moved through the industry in different ways, shapes and forms, whether it's, editorial or, in the head offices or, just being an artist. He's done it all. And how do you not respect somebody who has had his finger in so many pots along the way and has done so many incredible things and is still an incredible artist to this day? Bob Layton's incredible. I mean, despite, I can talk about Jack Kirby and all that stuff, but Bob Layton was, he was good to me.
I quit reading comics pretty much in my late teens. I kind of came back to them. I was working a job that was down the road from a comic shop. I worked for a moving company, and I would drive from wherever we are in Alabama all the way to, we went out to Las Vegas. We had to go all over the place. It was hard work. There was a comic shop down the road, and one day I just kind of popped in there out of curiosity. We didn't have comic shops around when I was a kid. And, now that I'm an adult, I was like, maybe I'll see what they have. And I started buying the trades for Neil Gaiman's Sandman. And that really kind of inspired me, not only to want to read more comics, but also just to want to write. It's I'm sure he's an influence for a ton of people. Doesn't make him any less of I wish I could say I'd pull out some obscure writer or something that inspired me, but no, is Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is rad, and I'll always be appreciative of the work that they did in the Sandman series. And one thing that just really blew me away is just how he would kind of utilize his artists for each story that he told, because he kind of had an idea of what he wanted it to do and where he wanted to go with it. So, I mean, anybody that can put Mark Hempel in what is essentially like a mainstream book like Sandman is rad.
From a professional standpoint, you both have been in the industry for a few years now, at least, if not more. You've both created amazing work separately, and now you're both working together. Do you consider yourself personally successful?
In comics or in general? Are we just talking comics right now, right?
However you'd like to answer it.
Well, I'm going to say yes anyway. All right. Look, there's more to go. There's a lot more to go, but I'm going to be able, when this book is done, these 5 issues especially are done, I'm going to feel like this is where it's supposed to be. This is what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, I'm going to feel good about it after the book. I can hold it in my hand, but I don't know. I mean, I've got a really cool wife, got 2 really cool kids. I've got a job that I absolutely love. I've had a really fun career as a graphic designer and creative director for the last 20 years. This is getting to do comics is like the cherry on top for me. You know what I mean? So I feel successful in the fact that I'm happier today than I have been in so many years of my life. I wake up every day and I'm, as pissed off and miserable as I can possibly be. I'm still happier than I was 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So that's I'm going to go with that. This is a success so far. But like I think I said earlier in the podcast, people measure success differently. So, there's different ways to measure. There's a lot of different metrics to measure success, but I'm comfortable with this success so far that I've had, and I definitely would like more.
I feel the same way as Dan. We're succeeding in what we're aiming for, but we're still hungry. We got, miles to go before we sleep. If we want to steal from, was that Robert Frost? We got a lot of work to do, and we're going to have fun doing it.
The reverse of success is failure. How do you deal with your failures?
You're learning from it. Failure is another way of learning how to do something better. My day job, I work with medical equipment. I'm actually building a lot of stuff and developing stuff that goes into people's bodies, and we have to kind of work around how we're going to do it without injuring people. And when I work with my engineers, we're constantly failing at stuff. Part of that is going, okay, well, luckily this is before it goes in somebody's body, but we're learning how to do it better and learning how to do it safer. That failure is a success. If you're learning from it, that's what you want to happen. Now, if you just have a failure and you refuse to learn from it, if you refuse to do anything about it and go like, well, this is just how it is, that's when it becomes catastrophic, and it is indeed an actual failure. But if something screws up, if you do something wrong but you learn from it, you're still winning.
Casey kind of took my answer because I mean it's pretty much the same concept. I mean, a failure is only a failure if you didn't learn from your mistake. You've heard the phrase, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. That is the most maddening concept to me. You have to learn from your mistakes. You have to, if you keep making the same mistake over and over, it goes from, a learning process to being an imbecile. And I would prefer not to look at myself as an imbecile. I don't know if I could really enjoy that. So, I mean, so no, it's always learning, always growing, ever, always changing. Look, you mentioned Bruce Lee earlier. One of the things about Bruce Lee that I love is a very famous quote about the phrase "be water." Water can flow, water can crash. Be water, my friend. That's kind of how I live my life as best as humanly possible. I mean, you have to be rigid in some ways, but you have to go with the flow. And going with the flow means being able to put your pride aside and and say, okay, is this truth? Is the truth that I've done something wrong here, and how do I fix this problem? Because is it my opinion that I'm right? Those are two very different things, and I really try to think about it from that perspective.
The younger generation is looking at your work and they're becoming inspired to be creative in their own way. In fact, the fact that you both have the younger generation and are raising the younger generation is going to accomplish that. How can they inspire the next generation creatively?
Keep creating. I mean, that's the biggest thing is stay creative. I think that I think the generation behind us is having a hard time with the idea that I think every generation, let me just say this because I don't want to sound like some curmudgeon bastard, okay? I think every generation before the next generation always feels like that generation is worse than the generation before, than their generation and the generations before. Not really that it's like that, but I think that just becomes the stereotype of things that, and back in my day, this is, there's a lot of that attitude. I think if we can actually, as the generation before them, accept the fact that we are handing them the world as it is, and not so we don't give them a flaming pile of shit to deal with. That's the best thing we can possibly do. I think that oftentimes, we'll let the next generation figure it out. That's not what we need to do. Me personally, I spent my Friday afternoon working with a 9-year-old girl on comic books and talking to her about how to make a comic book. We did this over Zoom, and I look at my kids, and they're very creative children, musician and an artist, but they do get sucked into things like video games and other things of just instant 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 entertainment. It's very easy to be entertained in today's day and age. When I was younger, when I was a little kid, we had 3 channels and paper and pens. I mean, and there wasn't anything on those 3 channels, so we drew comics, we drew pictures and did things like that. So I think I'm not saying I'm going to deprive my children of phones and video games just so they'll draw more, but I think that it to be creative, you have to be disciplined. As much as people talk about creativity, creative people being, artsy and flighty and things like that, that's not true. You have to be disciplined to do this. And so I think it's two things, have an imagination and stay disciplined to use it.
One thing I think that really kills a lot of creativity before it can even start is people like social media comparing comparing your work to other people. My 11-year-old loves to draw. She loves being creative. She loves doing stuff like that. She will get on YouTube or Instagram and she'll see these fully realized, pages, and then she'll go to do her own thing and be frustrated that it didn't come out that way on her end immediately. That's a toxic way of viewing the world and not being able to see the work that goes into to art, whether you're playing guitar or whether you're drawing a comic page. There are tons of hours of failing, tons of hours of learning the craft, and that's all part of the fun of it. That's part of the work. You have to enjoy banging your head up against a wall, I think, to create anything.
They say it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become a master at anything. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I've ever done 10,000 hours of anything. You got to put in the time.
I hate to say it, but we're definitely wrapping up this interview. It's been a pleasure having you both on. But before I let you both go, where can we, of course, find this comic, and where can we support the Kickstarter as well? And when is the Kickstarter? Give us all the details.
Yeah, the Kickstarter will be going October 13th. I'm still toiling away on getting the Kickstarter page going. I mean, here's just to tell you, we're trying to have this entire book done before we go to Kickstarter. So this won't be, hey, we've got 10 pages, we'll do the rest right after you fund us. No, I'm really trying to just be done, so it can go right to print, and give you your money's worth in a timely manner. The Kickstarter will be going October 13th. We'll be launching at 7 p.m. that night, Central Time, so 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be doing an Instagram Live that evening. Casey, myself, and a slew of other guests will be joining us that night over Instagram Live for a live launch party. The Kickstarter itself, we're going to be doing. We got 4 covers that we're going to be. We got 2 regular edition books, 2 deluxe edition books. I'm doing a cover on each of one of the regular and one of the deluxe. And then we also have Matt Skillern doing the variant for the regular, and then Adam Caswell doing the cover for the deluxe, the variant cover for the deluxe. So we've got a couple of options there for you. Beyond that, there's going to be some amazing other tier gifts, including we're going to be doing a t-shirt, an exclusive t-shirt for the Kickstarter, and a couple other little prizes, that are going to be really exciting. And I'm going to also just tell them about the deluxe book real quick, Casey. The deluxe book itself is going to be, like I said before, 44 pages. It's going to have the 30-page story from the regular edition comic. And then it's also going to have a fan art gallery. We're going to take some of those 45 plus pieces, almost 50 pieces of artwork that we received, and we're going to feature those in the deluxe edition. I'm going to have some extra sketches that I've done, and then on top of that, we're going to be doing a very amazing. We're doing almost like a director's commentary video that goes along with the book. So there'll be a QR code in the deluxe edition. You scan the QR code, it takes you to a private video, which will be a roundtable discussion, including Casey, myself, and a few other people that will be joining us to talk about the comic in detail. Give you our actual creative interpretation of the work that's on the page. Tell you what was motivating us, what you can look forward to in the next issue. The problem is, we're trying to keep such tight lips on this first issue. It's our opportunity to really get to talk with you about the project itself. So, little different tier that I've never seen anybody else do anything like that. So we're really excited to be able to present that to the audience. You can find us on BigfootKnowsKarate.com. On Instagram, I'm Danomite, Danomyte 139. So Danomite 139. And Casey is Robots Eat Guitars on Instagram and Twitter. So that's where you can find us. We'll be posting updates on both of our. I'm Danomite139 as well on Twitter as well. So we'll be posting information about when the Kickstarter goes live, when you can sign up for, to follow it, that sort of thing. So we'll get that information out to you as soon as we can over those channels.
Like I said, that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking. I want to thank you both for coming on the show. I do greatly appreciate it. Like I said, open invitation. Definitely want to have you both back on for issue 2, and of course for your own individual projects as well too. So thank you again for coming on Two Geeks Talking.
Kurt, thanks for having us, man. It was a blast.
Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it, Kurt. It was a good time. Thank you.
October 13th, guys.
You can find this interview and thousands of others on our website, tgtmedia.com or twogeekstalking.com. And of course, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/TGT Media. And as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to help bring that out. Thanks for listening and watching on Two Geeks Talking.